So here we have just the basic equipment needed to get started for the first time if you are planning on homebrewing. I'm going to kind of walk you through some of these things that you'll need and what they are. So the first thing that you're going to want to get is some sort of kettle. This is a stainless steel kettle. It's about an 8-gallon kettle. You can get a 4 or 5 gallon one and it should work just fine. You're definitely going to want to get some sort of spoon. Very, very handy. Almost all homebrewers need some sort of pitcher. It's one of your more useful tools. Graduated is best, but it's not necessary. Your primary fermenter, you can use a bucket. You can see this one here is nice and graduated, very simple, just 5-gallon bucket. You're going to need some sort of siphon. So this is what we call a siphon. There's tubing attached, and we'll teach you guys how to use that today. And then lastly, not necessary, but definitely an option, is a secondary fermenter. This is called a carboy. It's a glass carboy. Up on top here, you have a bung and an airlock. An airlock will also be needed to use in your primary fermenter as well. And finally, you'll need some sort of device to calculate the gravity of your wort and final beer. So this is called a hydrometer. And this handy tool will help you measure the gravity and ultimately will give you calculations for your alcohol in your final beer. So that's just kind of the beginning equipment that you'll need for an extract batch or a partial mash batch. Go check out our demo with the extract ladies to see what they're using today. So this is the copper manifold that's going to go into the mash tun. Right now it's all pieced together but upside down. So if you can imagine this flipped over, with all these little holes are going to be on the bottom of the mash tun. So as the water is being pulled out of the mash tun in order to bring the wort out of the mash, this is going to act almost like a vacuum. It's going from the bottom to be sucking that water down, allowing that grain bed to create almost like a filter. And then these little tiny holes in the copper don't allow the grain to get swept through into your boil kettle. Come check out one of the all grain homebrew demos and we'll kind of show you what we're talking about. So here we have an example of two different mash tuns. The first one is a false bottom mash tun. So you can see it's a stainless steel kettle. We've got a valve here that allows us to pull the wort out of the mash. So what happens is we'll have our grain and our water in here steeping. It can be on a flame if we need to adjust temperature, so that's one of the upsides. And the bottom is, these metal brackets here that support the false bottom. So during the mash, we'll place this piece down at the bottom, and now you've created a false bottom. The grain can set on top, and the water can flow through. So when it pulls from here, this is set below this screen here. The other one is the copper manifold we talked about earlier. So I have a large cooler. We've got a valve on the side of the cooler in order to pull the wort. And then there's that copper manifold we talked about earlier. As you can see, if I twist this, you can see on the bottom are the holes to allow the wort to be pulled through, but not the grain. Come over to either one of our all grain demos and you can see both of these in action.